Okay, go on.
That's not what taking a flamethrower to the arena is.
For them,
not every team is capable of taking a flamethrower to the arena.
Well, they took a lighter.
They didn't have a good final. If you finish last, you didn't take a flamethrower to the arena.
They
regardless
took a creme
of how close
brulee,
you got to your
one of those little
potential.
fire things you put on a creme brulee, because that's all they had in their pocket for that meat. Okay. They didn't have was a sparkler.
Remember, the show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two.
Norbert's is having a sale on vinyl mat cleaner. Oh, how we love vinyl mat cleaner. Go to norberts.net for 10% discount on anything with the code GymCastic April. Norbert's are also having a $50 gift certificate giveaway on anything in their online store. No minimum. Just follow Norbert's Athletic on Instagram and then like and comment on the giveaway post. Good luck. Oklahoma are the NCAA champions for the 6th time. The Stanford men won their 4th consecutive NCAA title. Jordan Chiles, Maile O'Keefe, and Olivia Trautman are NCAA champions. The British women and the Italian men won the European Championship, even without our beloved neck tattoo man, Bartolini. Trinity finally tied for the all-time 10 career record. There's so much to tell you about from this weekend. Welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica. I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam situation and some news for you guys. Breaking news. Our platform somehow changed the way they do the platform, so you can still buy your virtual ticket for the live show, even though for years you haven't been able to. But you can still, it looks like, buy a ticket for the live show, and then you have a little under 2 weeks to watch it. So,
because there were certain people at Nationals who missed it and hadn't bought their virtual tickets yet.
Right. And I was like, well, it's too late for you. But luckily, it's not now because we didn't know that they changed this. So you can do it now. So you know who you are. You know your job. No excuses. Because you were out partying at the library. Okay. NCAA championships. Spencer, give us the news.
So as you mentioned, like 14 seconds ago, Oklahoma won its 6th national title by a 10.5 over Florida. No one has any opinions. Very not controversial. It's not another Miller Gutsu or anything. Or Oklahoma, Florida 2014 when they tied for the national championship. See, it's a whole 10.5 apart. This is nothing compared to that. So Oklahoma, that's 6 national titles, which ties Alabama now for 4th on the all-time list. So Oklahoma has won 6 of the last 9 championships. So on the standings, Georgia and Utah tied at 10, according to some. One of Utah's was not an NCAA championship, so Georgia says they have 10 and Utah has 9. Utah's like, we won and won before, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Not getting into it. Georgia and Utah are on 10. UCLA is on 7. Oklahoma and Alabama now tied at 6.
And I just want to mention something that KJ Kindler, coach of Oklahoma, the 6-time national champions, which makes it a dynasty. By the way, it's a dynasty when you've won 6 times. FY. Or does it have to be a
But
row?
they have not won 5 in a row like Suzanne.
That's true. So Suzanne will come for us.
And the whole Georgia team, but Suzanne.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, there were gymnasts. Also the gymnasts, probably. They probably helped. I don't know.
Olivia Trautman was so important to this team. And I want to mention something that KJ Kindler said in the press conference. She said that she didn't want Olivia Trautman to come back. So KJ said, I was thinking about her future and she was thinking about her present. And in an interview with the Oklahoman, I hope I'm saying that right, Trautman said she learned to be honest about how she's feeling and to be able to differentiate between normal soreness and something that could lead to an injury. Quote, I only get one body in my lifetime, so just got to play it safe, she said. So I think this is important because it reinforces the back and forth, the scale that you need between athletes are going to athlete and informed consent and advocating for the health of someone and how you balance those things. Like if everyone knows everything and they decide they want to do it, then that's up to them. And the athlete, they have gotten where they are because this is the kind of person they are. So it's really hard to stop them from doing anything. So I just want to mention, I really liked that that KJ talked about that. So there's been a lot of, athletes on all these teams that had injuries that could potentially end their careers. And they were like, nah, I think I can come back. And Olivia Trautman won vault, right? Didn't she win vault national champion? And
what would they have done without her being like, oh, hi, this is actually how you stick? Very important, or almost stick in the final. It was the best landing. So what did you think after the dust has settled? We watched, I watched some of the key routines over again today. Just to let the audience know, this episode is being recorded under protest by me. Yes. Because Jessica took 2 hours of my vacation. Yes. To rewatch part of the competition. Part of it. So, I just wanted to make sure to see things from the TV, to see what our listeners watched that weren't there. And so I also talked to my, very important judging panel, who are my friends that are NCAA judges, that we text about everything. And one of them went back and looked at everything, who was there at the competition, and went back and rescored the routines and still had Oklahoma coming out on top. So by a 10th. I mean, not a ton, but that's basically what they won by. So there were also, 24 judges scoring the NCAA judges scoring the competition who had Oklahoma coming out on top by a 10th. We'll see what I think later, but I haven't rewatched it yet. Okay. That'll be for we'll do behind the scenes, the verdict. Verdict. Spencer Barnes weighs in. I'm looking forward to that. Okay. So okay, can we talk about some of the controversies that happened first? Well, you mean the who won title and who won and whether that's a controversy or not? Yeah. But I have important feelings things about the controversies. Okay. So poor Spencer. Okay, so this is the thing. KJ said in the press conference after they won that people had seen an anyone but Oklahoma t-shirts in the audience, and that was seen in the crowd, and so it really pumped up the team to win. And I was like, is this like when KJ said that they were underdogs still when they're coming into this? KJ loves to be like, actually, we're the 9th best team in the country, and no one thinks we're going to win. Nobody. And everyone's listening to her yeah, we watched. Actually, I don't think we're the favorites. As Will Graves from the AP once asked her, is that like a Jedi mind trick? Yes, it is a Jedi mind trick because it works every time. However, whatever she does to keep them motivated, whether it's the team looks at, Spencer's quote from 2 years ago that was, if you wanted to count them out, this would be the year, but you can't ever count them out. And they put that on the wall, or, convincing them then the underdogs when they clearly are not. That is an important thing that happened. Controversial? You decide. Okay, Spencer. I think my first impression, we kind of did this a little bit on behind the scenes for club members right after the competition. My first impression was, should Florida have won? And it was kind of mixed. We had some yeses and some nos. I casually walked by the arena bar to find the flock of gays to get some feedback. Because, you can't trust a heterosexual when asking about the scores. They don't know what they're talking about. Exactly. And there was more Florida than Oklahoma, but not unanimous, I would say. But the thing I think is worth delving into is the idea that how much are we being influenced by the events of the final rotation? Right. Because that last rotation, Florida was on bars, Oklahoma was on floor. Florida was a couple tenths behind Oklahoma heading in, and Florida had a very strong bars rotation. It was very good, and they were hitting routines, and they were putting up big scores, and you kind of thought, compared to the Oklahoma floor routines, you were like, that should gain a half-tenth for Florida. That should gain a tenth for Florida, because Oklahoma was doing well on floor, but some of the landings were a little short, and I'm going to cover it. I'm not stepping, I'm hopping to present. It was that kind of thing, and they were still getting high scores that were equivalent to what Florida got. So I do think that Florida should have gained more tenths on Oklahoma in that final rotation than they did. But then to say that means Florida should have won presumes that the margin after the first 3 events was completely accurate, and that it was just the final event that was weird, because Florida's own floor rotation was very loosely evaluated.
Yeah.
I thought they were both quite loose. So that's what I would go back and look at, because it's possible that Oklahoma should have had an insurmountable margin heading into that last event, and Florida's superior rotation didn't bridge the gap, which it didn't ultimately.
Yeah, and I think that was the first thing I thought is, am I suffering from recency bias? Because at first I was like, oh, Florida totally should have won. And I was like, well, is it just because of their comeback on bars and how well they did in Trinity and Victoria Wynn, and like clearly not having a good experience at Florida and then finding a team that fit her and then hitting and
You mean at
fall.
Georgia?
Georgia. What did I say? Florida? At Georgia.
You said not having a good experience at Florida, which is the school she's currently competing on.
And then Georgia. Transfer portal for the win. So I really thought about it. So I did go back and watch some of those routines, and I was like, I like paused some things, and I was like, I feel like Oklahoma has better form all around. And then I did even like pause, like mid, or her knees bent for some Oklahoma, and I was like, oh, they're not like. They're really not like they're.
They would
like
never.
Those no, you get thrown
KJ would be like, I saw a shirt in the crowd that said your knees are bent, so you better not bend them.
Oh my God. So yeah, I still feel like even though Florida had this incredible comeback and like so many feelings, and they're the happiest second place team of ever, I think, well, after all the crying, but it was sort of I feel like it was a mix
after
of
they were really upset. They were happy.
Right. Yes. After they were like Trinity and she's done and we didn't win, then I feel like they were happy when they finally got up there.
Interesting thing about Florida's performance for me is that in the final, they did everything that we've been wanting them to do and hit a really good competition, because they had kind of been lately a little, I mean, even going back to that, when they didn't put in the best lineups against Oklahoma, and then in the semifinal, they were very lucky to even advance to the final in the first place, did not have a very good competition in the semifinal. And I felt like my question heading into the final was, does Florida have the fiery competitive intensity to turn the dial up and deliver in the final? And I do think they did that. They put up their riskier but higher scoring potential athletes and did so successfully. They didn't put up any Yurchenko fulls in the final. They went for all 10-0 starts. They swapped out Peyton Richards in the anchor position on beam. They put in Victoria Wynn, who has higher scoring potential on beam. So I thought I think they did everything Trinity was possibly ever able to be able to do. She did in that final. So I think they did all the right things. They did all the things we wanted to see from them. And they had a very strong competition in the final to finish second. But now it's kind of like that's the second year this has happened. Because last year, heading into the postseason, we were talking about like Florida doesn't really like rise to the occasion. They don't really peak at nationals in the first few years of Jenny Rowland being there. They kind of had weaker performances once they got to nationals, and it was a big deal last year in the final that they had a really good meet and delivered in the moment to score over 198 and finish second to Oklahoma. And now it's the second straight year that exact same thing has happened. And I think at a certain point that's also going to be, frustrating for Florida, that they're like, we would though like to, considering that we have like one of the most talented and accomplished college teams there's ever been, we would maybe like a championship out of that at some point. Because like we only have 900 elites and world championship medals on this team.
And the other thing is like going into that recency bias, I think is also the we know your whole life story bias. So I feel like there is like a propensity to have more feelings about how Florida does, because we've known so many of the gymnasts on that team since they were in middle school.
Speak for yourself about feel.
I mean, no,
I feel like there's a lot of we being said
following their career,
plural pronouns.
But I feel like one of the things about Oklahoma is they're so good, but we also know so little about them, and I feel like that's part of their strategy. Like, yes, we know they have an army of 100 massage therapists. We know they're getting a brand new gym. We know that like occasionally they have hurricanes there and a lot of earthquakes from oil drilling. But but we don't have like a lot of stories except, there's an injury and people overcame it. We don't have like the personal connection, I feel like, but I really think that's part of their strategy. They're like, nope, we're not going to do a ton of interviews because we are focused on winning, and it works and we win. So where I feel like Florida, it's like we know every nook and cranny, everyone's political beliefs, everyone's backstory, who their girlfriend is, everything. So there's that. But they're amazing. They are so amazing, and they're such a good team, and I love watching their gymnastics. Oklahoma is so deserving of these wins over and over and over, and it's such a pleasure to watch them. That's what I have to say about that. Were there standout routines for you, standout moments from Oklahoma that you want to talk about?
I would say, and going back to the idea of, who should have won, I would say Oklahoma's bars rotation in the final was the strongest single event I saw from any team either day of the competition. It's not the highest rotation score we saw at the competition. It wasn't even the highest bar score of the final because Florida got a higher bar score later on. But I do think, I thought that was the most absolutely nailed rotation, because I don't think we saw a lot of nailed meets at nationals. I don't think anyone just absolutely took a flamethrower to the arena and was just like, we did it. It was kind of good moments. I think Utah will be really happy with their semifinal performance. We'll talk about the finals in a second. Yep. Good rotations here and there, but no one had the full 4 events amazingness. But I thought Oklahoma's bars was the closest because they started sticking. And then Audrey Davis sticks and gets one of the lowest scores in the rotation, and we can't even begin, but because everything's wrong and the scoring is broken. Oh, it's fine.
Yep.
That was the best routine of nationals.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say, and it got 9925.
Yep.
So everything's fine.
Yep. And I was just like, okay, she's totally won. And then Jordan did her bars, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, and that's in semifinal, which is different.
That was the semifinal when Audrey Davis didn't stick in the semifinal.
Yeah, but when Oklahoma went to bars, I was like, well, that's it. They're going to win. I mean, I will. Okay. I just want to, I want to contradict your flamethrower statement because I feel like LSU did the absolute best they are capable of in that semifinal. They as a team could not have done any better with people that could still walk. So I think they should be, they were also the happiest 4th place team I think ever. And, that's talking about all the people that have gotten hurt. They would have never made it to the final if they'd been in the second semifinal.
I feel like we've now gotten onto a whole other topic, and you're wrong. So
okay, that's fine. We can debate that. But I do want to just mention, because I think they're great. They did the absolute most that they could, and they should be so happy. And I think the other thing I want to mention is KJ broke her foot again, competing on
KJ
floor. KJ Johnson, yeah, not KJ. There was no celebratory breaking feet that we know about from KJ Kindler. But Jay Clark said he went up to KJ after floor and apologized, and that she said, no, that's what I wanted. I wanted to help my team, so this is the best way to go out. And then he also said after that semifinal that after the semifinal, I'm sorry, where KJ broke her foot, this team's made of something I'm not, which I think is a very true statement for normal humans and then these athletes. And he also said, we got some help in some spots. It's a meat grinder, which this is the kind of blood splatter comparison that I like in a competition. But I think they were also scored much more accurately here. Shenikova got a 9.8 on bars. That scoring was tighter overall. But I just want to point that out as my did anyone take a flamethrower? I think LSU overall, it was a flamethrower of a final for them. Okay, go on.
That's not what taking a flamethrower to the arena is.
For them,
not every team is capable of taking a flamethrower to the arena.
Well, they took a lighter.
They didn't have a good final. If you finish last, you didn't take a flamethrower to the arena.
They
regardless
took a creme
of how close
brulee,
you got to your
one of those little
potential
fire things you put on a creme brulee, because that's all they had in their pocket for that meet. Okay. they didn't have was a sparkler. And that's what all they needed to be happy with themselves.
I have to go back to talking about Oklahoma because I still have
won.
more to say before Jessica took us onto a completely different topic. I think the interesting thing about Oklahoma, you were talking about like once we watched their bars, we were like, well, that was that. I think one of the interesting things about Oklahoma's performance was, so they started on vault. They came out for the vault warm-up, for the competition, and stuck the crap out of like every single vault in the warm-up period. It was a ridiculous, remarkable warm-up. It was like if they could have come into the arena like waving machetes, and it would have been had the equivalent thing, like the equivalent reaction from us of just like, whoa, they hit everything on these vaults. And then in the meet, though, in the actual ones that counted, it was fine. Trautman had a good one, just a little movement on landing, but there were a lot of steps. It was not as strong of a vault rotation as they did in the warm-up. And then they still scored well over 49.5. And we were like, well, if Oklahoma's going to score over 49.5 for that vault rotation where they didn't even stick anything, they're going to get like a 199 today. And then they go to bars and have that amazing rotation, and that bars rotation only scored 1/10 more than the vault. Mm-hmm. And we're like, well, then what? You can't have medium and then amazing and only have 1/10 between them. Let's, Shout
out to our listener who came to the live show and made a "If It's Great, Differentiate" t-shirt, because that's what we needed more of. And I do think bars was the most up and down on scoring, where vault was more consistent with scoring, even though all across the board it was generally tighter than the regular season. Agree or disagree? The look on Spencer's face.
Disagree.
All right. As usual.
It was so, because the scoring was so wild. And vault was one of the most frustrating scorings for me, because I felt like there was way more than 0.5 of difficulty difference applied between your Yurchenko fulls and your Yurchenko 1.5s. Like we would see, if you had the same landing error on a Yurchenko full, that was not only scoring just a 0.5 lower than a Yurchenko 1.5 on difficulty. It was like 1.5 lower, like in practice rather than in reality. Like in practice, it was being treated like a Yurchenko full was worth 1/10 or more less than a Yurchenko 1.5. You got a bonus, or it was like they were actually scoring how it is like in level 10, with the bonus for a Yurchenko 1.5 has a bonus in level 10, right? I'm acting like I watch level 10 gymnastics, which I do not.
Well, to your point, I mean, I have a note that Trinity got an impossible score on vault in the semifinal.
Yeah, probably. There were a lot of them.
Yeah. But I mean, I have a couple of those for different events.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of them. Let me count the ways. Let's start on impossible scores.
I don't want any judges to feel left out.
I have the most impossible scores on vault, I think.
I think I have them equally distributed.
Fair.
Yeah.
Beam was so weird, like fluctuating. I was like, are you harsh or are you drunk? I can't tell from routine to routine. I do want to talk about Utah in the final, who finished third, and we haven't talked about them yet because Jessica had to talk about LSU. Famous LSU lover, Jessica O'Byrne, can't shut up about LSU. Utah had across bars, beam, and floor in that final. Utah's score on those three events was only 0.5 behind Oklahoma's, which speaks to, if they had had a 4-event complete hit, we would be talking about Utah as part of the should they have won controversy, because they were right there across those 3 events, and I thought they were very strong. Vault, I think they overwent for it and ended up landing short on like every single vault. When they started and Maile O'Keefe landed like short chest down, step forward, actually scored in the 9.7s, which is like shocking for gymnastics at this point. I was like, uh-oh. Because like that's not a Maile O'Keefe vault. She's won the all around. She's like, I can do a Yurchenko full and land with my chest up. Like I can complete it. And then we saw, Yurchenko 1.5 short landing trying to stick, short landing trying to stick, and they just lost 10th, and it was so much that they could never make it up. But it's a shame that it was not they weren't right in it at the end because their beam rotation got a gigantic score and it was super good. And we were kind of all focusing on Oklahoma and Florida at that point because we knew that those were the two who could still win and that Utah would have had to, like, if they had gotten a 50, they would have had to get a 50 to win on beam at that point. So there was less attention on it, but it was an amazing rotation. And if it had come down to that Utah beam rotation, you would favor that over anyone because you're like, oh, look, guess who we're putting up? Maile O'Keefe. Maile O'Keefe's beam. Bye. We won.
Club Gym Nerd. Get discounts and first dibs on live show tickets, and extra podcasts every week, athlete dossiers, code guides, commission your own segments of the show. It also makes a great gift. Check it out at gymcastic.com at the Join the Club tab.
If you don't want to bother with the whole joining Club Gym Nerd thing, you can just give us money. Check out the no strings attached donate button at the bottom of the Join the Club page at gymcastic.com/club.
I do want to mention that, Utah came in first into the final, which is a huge boost for them. And they were psyched. But then the Marsden curse, it's still in place.
Would you like to explain the very fake Marsden curse?
Yeah, I didn't make it up. One of our listeners did. It is, if a team wins with one coach, they can never win again with another coach. So this is the conundrum that all of these teams face, and that's why Oklahoma won instead of Florida, because they've won before.
Or any of all of the other teams. Well,
yeah.
LSU's never won, so
yeah.
But
so
if Utah or Florida had won, that would have broken Jessica's very real and very important curse. I want to go back to, speaking of Utah beating Oklahoma in the semifinal and performing very well in the semifinal. You have been on this, that LSU, like you've been pointing out LSU, that they wouldn't have made it to the final if they had been in the second semifinal, which, yeah, if they had been with Utah and UCLA, or Utah and Oklahoma, they would not have advanced, but neither would any other team. I think LSU was a top 4 team in semifinals. So why are you pointing out LSU as the team that wouldn't have advanced? Like, because even if you were just taking the best 4 scores, LSU would have made it.
Because all season they were ranked lower than where they ended up in their seeding.
Because Michigan was eliminated.
Oh yeah, it's Michigan's fault. That's a good point. That's a good point. The second semifinal was so hard. It was just so much harder than the first one. But yes, that is Michigan's fault. Michigan.
If true. Michigan had advanced, which I guess would have been over LSU, because LSU finished second in that regional,
right? We
would have had pretty even semifinals. But a top seed was eliminated. And so you have an opening in the draw. That's what happens.
True. I know. But I'm still not over it, basically.
Just like Auburn last year. Took advantage of Michigan.
Yeah, that's true.
Michigan. But the Michigan has a national championship, so you can't say poor Michigan.
Right, that's true. They have won.
You already won. You're fine.
Right. And as long as they don't get a new
Cal's the new Michigan, because they did the exact same thing as Michigan last year.
Yes.
Because like Michigan in the semifinal, when they had the early fall on bars, and then the anchor fall on bars, and they got eliminated. Cal, exact same thing in the first semifinal. Gabby Perea fell. And then El Cesario fell in the anchor position. Otherwise, Cal would have won the first semifinal. So,
yeah,
Cal's like, Michigan, watch out. We're coming for you.
Can I move on to my feelings pause before we continue?
I see no way of stopping you.
Thank you. Okay. Number 1, I want to talk about Trinity. Trinity tied the Hanson-Dancher career 10 record on the second day, the final, by sticking her vault after not vaulting until prelims, not even vaulting in podium training, still walking with a limp on podium training day, still warming up on the bike. And she was just lightly testing out, like bouncing on the board while everybody was doing beam on podium training. So the lesson is, if the trainer tells you to wear a boot and don't do anything that hurts, or your doctor or whoever, do it, because after 9 days, you might just have healed enough to be able to compete for your team and be a hero and tie the all-time 10 record, as you should. So I'm very pleased with this. That's all I want to say.
I imagined you would be pleased with a 3-way tie now for the 10s record.
Congratulations.
Everyone's an equal winner. I do want to break down the journey we went through watching Trinity on vault in various warm-up periods that maybe the people watching at home didn't necessarily see. Because, okay, so she didn't vault in podium training, right? I didn't just miss that. Like, she didn't go at all.
She just did bars. Yeah.
Yeah.
With
and
a
she got up on,
heavy
she
spot on
marked
her
the beam. She marked a beam routine, but didn't do any skills. And then, so we see her in the warm-up period, or, you know, the pre-meet warm-up in the semifinals vault, and we're looking at each other like that's definitely the first time she has, like, that timer was definitely the first time she's vaulted since she got hurt, like 100%. And then we see the progression, like she does a timer, she adds back the full, and they're like huge hugs after her full. So we're like, we know this is the first time she has done a full since her injury, because like you don't like have a 9-minute hug with Trinity Thomas after she does a Yurchenko full normally. It's like, all right, fine, great job, I'm Trinity Thomas. So we know, and then she's like step down 1.5, and then suddenly it's the meet, and she's doing her Yurchenko 1.5, and it's great. She didn't hit a single one before that semifinal performance, and then the same thing in the final. She did not hit a Yurchenko 1.5 in training until it was go time in the meet, and then she stuck and got a 10.
And I asked Jenny Rowland, her coach, about that, and she was like, because we were also watching Morgan Hurd have the warm-up meet of her life.
This is so overstated.
And
Jessica
I know, but it was
and
still
just ran with it.
Well, she's a world champion. People want to know how she's doing, and they don't get to see her.
Yeah.
She didn't show her once on TV, so we need to tell the people, Spencer.
Well, we should tell them accurately, though.
Yeah, that it was really good, because we haven't seen her do any major hit routines. I'm talking about not podium training. I'm talking about the warm-up for the semifinal.
Yes.
You're welcome.
No, okay. Morgan's wonderful. And on bars, we definitely did see the best bars routine she has ever done at Florida in that warm-up.
She did it on the state of Florida.
She hit the routine. And she did a double pike. I'm not like, oh my God, it was the most amazing routine. She struggled on beam. Jessica didn't watch her beam, so she's like, that's not part of the narrative. But
I'm not counting her beam. They're not going to use her
Jessica's not counting beam or any other passes on floor. Just the bars routine.
Her passes on floor were really good. Thank you very much. Her tumbling on floor was really good. Her ring wasn't actually elite ring leap, not this nonsense they get credit for in NCAA. And how do I know that? Because I stopped it, and our wonderful photographer, fact checker, customer service, and other services also got a picture of it. And I was like, see, this is what you get credit for in elite, not this nonsense that you could just like, basically act like you're yawning and get credit in NCAA.
Very upset to learn this weekend that the requirement for a switch ring to get credit is the foot must be above hip height.
What is that?
Was like, that's nothing.
Who can't do that? I can get my foot above hip height. It's nonsense. If I can do it, no one should get credit. So anyway,
it was very good from Morgan. I was very happy to see that bars routine. Right. I just felt like you were burning it up a little bit.
About Morgan Hurd. This team, as you said, is like the most accomplished team in the history of gymnastics in college. So you're welcome, everybody. Long story short, KJ confirmed that was Trinity's first vault.
How did KJ? She's not even her coach.
I mean, Jenny Rowland. God damn it. You got me on this. You interrupted me so many times I can't get my coaches straight. Oh, Jenny Rowland. And one of the reasons that they're doing Florida, Jenny Rowland, that they are doing student store couture is to keep like the volume of stress down. Like it's just another day. We're just wearing our things we coach with instead of fancy dress. You know, which maybe there was a reason for that during the Suzanne and Sarah era of Alabama, Georgia, and that worked for them. But Florida doesn't do that. The athletes speak for themselves. Nobody needs a prom dress. Oh, speaking of prom, I have a Texas prom story for later.
All right.
Okay.
Why not now?
Okay. So we're at a restaurant. I'm sitting with a bunch of coaches, and none who are coaching at this meet. And there's some kids there that are in their prom outfits walking by, and one of them says, "You look beautiful." And another one says, "Make good choices." And then another one says, "Because Texas took them all away from you." And I enjoyed that very much. Yeah.
The prom goer said this, or the coaches you were sitting with?
No, the coaches said that to the prom kids. Why would the prom kids say you look beautiful?
I know, it didn't make sense. That's why I had to ask.
The coaches said this to the kids as they were walking by. Yes, so I enjoyed that very much. All right. I'm going to try to tell this next story without crying. Are you going to succeed? Probably not. I already tried to. I already cried twice. Cried again. Trying to get through it without crying to practice. So I want to talk about... I talked to Brett, the coach at Maryland this week, and I want to talk about what happened at regionals when Maryland competed at regionals and what happened with Tasha Brozowski and her family during that competition. So Tasha's father is Patrick, and he's big guy, known for giving giant bear hugs. This is very important. The dad, Patrick, is a combat veteran, and he's in a motorcycle club with other combat veterans, and they were all coming back from Tasha's twin sister's college meet. And his wife, Liz, Tasha's mom, was also riding on the motorcycle, and they had a tire blowout. So not an accident, a tire blew on the motorcycle. When the tire blew and Patrick knew they were going to crash, he turned around in his seat and grabbed his wife Liz into one of his giant bear hugs. And he held her like that as the motorcycle went down and they crashed. And Liz came out of this accident fine. She's going to need shoulder surgery, but otherwise untouched. Patrick suffered massive trauma to his brain and to his spine. The day before regionals, the decision was made that he had no brain activity and that the family was going to give the gift of organ donation from Patrick. So her family, so Tasha was, Liz, Patrick's wife, Tasha's mom, called the coaches and said, please go to Tasha. I want you to be with her. She can't be alone when we give her this news. So they went to Tasha, and Liz told her that, that Patrick doesn't have any brain activity, and they're going to effectively keep monitoring, but they think he's not going to make it. So that night, the coaches and Liz and, all gave Tasha the option to go home. Do you want to go home? Do you want to be with your dad? You don't have to stay here in regionals. Aaron Dooley, you guys know Aaron Dooley, great elite, the assistant coach at Maryland, stayed up with Tasha all night, where she was on FaceTime with her mom on and off so her mom could take her into the room with her dad. And the next morning, Tasha decided that she wanted to do her bar routine for her dad. And she told the team the decision that she made. And then she competed at regionals, and she hit her bar routine. Not only she hit her bar routine, her teammates stuck their first 4 routines before she went. All of her teammates stuck their dismounts. So when she did her routine and hit for her dad, her entire team was in tears. If anybody was there watching that, I know that Bridget Sloan talked about this when she was watching. Wow, this is a lot of emotion from this team, not knowing the whole story of what was going on. I heard from people that were there and even judges that were there how hard it was to not cry, seeing all of this going on and knowing what was happening. And to the credit, we give judges a lot of shit. But to the credit of the meet referee and the judges there, they all gave Maryland extra time because of the circumstance. So the 5th person up could be ready to go, because everyone was crying, and not just crying, but the kind of sobs, when what is going on and what just happened and what Tasha just achieved. So they all gave more time so the team could get it together before the next person went. And the head coach Brett said that event was incredibly emotional for Tasha and the entire team, and Tasha's bravery and the team's resilience on that Friday was like nothing I've seen in 20 years of collegiate coaching. After the meet, the team went into a room with Tasha, and they surrounded her. She sat on a couch. Everyone surrounded her, and they all put a hand on her. And what happened next is, if you guys are familiar with organ donation, what they do is they do a walk that is a walk of honor. So the person that is donating their organs, the whole medical staff, any friends and family line the halls to honor that person, and they are wheeled to the surgery. And her whole team and Tasha watched this. And so they were with her when this happened, and they all got to support her. And if you guys want to support the family, and also if you're not an organ donor, consider doing it. Make sure that it is on your license, because like Patrick saved his wife in the crash, you could also be someone that saves someone if you're an organ donor. So there is a GoFundMe link to support the family, and we will put it up in the show notes. Liz, who is Tasha's mom, runs a CrossFit gym and obviously couldn't work during this time. And like I know, if you're a small business owner, it's very scary to have any portion of time when you can't work. So consider donating to help the family. And thank you to Tasha and your whole family and the team for sharing the story with us. I need a Kleenex break.
Transition so elegantly to talk about some of the other semifinals.
Yes.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the first semifinal on the first day of competition on Thursday, where looked at, for the first half of the meet, like we were going to have a conversation about Florida falling apart because they really struggled on beam. They were in trouble. Florida and LSU were still close, kind of going back to back, but we thought at that point, after half of the first semifinal, that Cal was going to win it. And then Cal ends up counting a fall on bars. They drop lower. Denver counted a fall on beam, so they drop lower. And then it was LSU advancing in first and Florida advancing in second out of the first semifinal. I think we can say that Cal definitely would have advanced because they were out by less than 5/10. So yes, they would have advanced, would have won the semifinal if they had hit one more of those bars routines. Denver, it would have been tougher. It's not necessarily that they would have been an advancing team if they had not counted a fall on beam, but they would have been right in it. They were pushing the other teams. They would have been close. So that was a semifinal almost entirely defined by who counted a fall versus who didn't. And that, I think, is what Jay Clark was alluding to when he was like, we got some help because, they stayed on, and in that semifinal, staying on was what you needed to do in a 197.4 advanced, which is definitely not a score that we would have expected to advance. We were talking about, can you advance without a 198? Is a 197.9 going to get eliminated, which is what ended up happening in the second semifinal. And then that first semifinal was, you needed a 197.4. I will also say the scoring was inflated throughout the day.
Yeah, I think that was agreed upon by everyone that the second session was higher.
Yeah, so I don't know how well you can compare the scores. I do think UCLA's performance in the second semifinal was stronger than any of the teams in the first semifinal. I think they probably would have beat any of those teams even if they had been scored at the exact same time. I don't think necessarily the margin is what the margin would be if they had competed at the exact same time, because UCLA also had some errors in that semifinal en route to a 197.9. But they were, drew the short straw with a draw, which is what happens. But, remember, UCLA went into the postseason as a top 4 team. Their NQS, they were the seeded number 2 there. Their NQS was better than Utah, so they got a top 2 position. So they were seeded to advance. Utah had the better meet. Oklahoma had the better meet in that semifinal. UCLA did have the top floor score of any team at Nationals in that semifinal. So Jessica's okay. Because, I feel like your main thing was, they need to score the artistry. They need to score higher than
I told you guys. I told you. It's like a different sport. And see, the judges agree.
And then they went to vault and learned the lesson of it's tough to score with your Chenko fulls, especially if you're bouncing way out of them. And basically what happened to UCLA in the semifinals, what happened to Utah in the final, where it's just like those vault scores, the vault landings were not there, and those vault scores were not going to be competitive enough to challenge what Oklahoma was doing or how Utah performed on that day. Utah final performance versus UCLA semifinal performance would have been very interesting to compare at the same time, because those were very similar. But and then we haven't talked about Kentucky yet. Good performance, solid, not their best performance. And I think it was one of those things where it was pretty clear early on that, like, you know, you got to nationals, great, but probably not going to advance from this session.
Yep. And before we talk more about seeding and, of course, the most important things, my rules for next season and all the feelings, things, and individuals, most importantly, individuals.
We haven't even talked about individuals.
I know. Hello. We need to pay some bills and thank the people that sponsor us and help us do the show and travel everywhere. First, thank you to our Club Gym Nerd members and everyone that bought tickets to the live show, because that helps support us. And thank you to Shift Movement Science and their symposium.
Okay, so the 2023, that's what year it is, by the way, Jessica. The 2023 Shift Symposium, which is a 3-day virtual gymnastics education event, starts on Friday, June 23rd, runs through that weekend to Sunday, June 25th, with 30 lecturers and 30 lectures and 30 speakers, including Nick Ruddock, Scott Wilgris, Carol Angela Orchard, Luke Carson, Dr. Ellen Casey, Dave Tilley, and more. Participants save all the money of travel expenses while learning from their couches about the best gymnastics training information. They get lifetime access to all lecture recordings, handouts, and Q&A sessions. The topics are going to include vault, bars, beam, floor, pommels, as well as mental blocks, building high-performance cultures safely, injury rehab, and strength and conditioning programs. So there are 1, 2, and 3-day ticket options available, and up to $150 off with bundles, as well as an extra 10% off for groups of 5 or plus participants. Live tickets sales close the first week of June, and you can check it out at shiftmovementscience.com.
We, Spencer and I, both live with cats. So we deal with pets. And we also live in a place where we get to enjoy the wonders of both an allergy season and a fire season. How lucky are we?
I'm so happy all the time.
According to the EPA, indoor air could be 2 to 5 times more outdoor air, and in some cases it could be 100 times more polluted. This is true. I looked this up. And the thing about this that really gets me is that my poor cat, Obi-Wan, suffers from asthma. And so I'm always looking for ways to purify the indoor air to minimize what I can control, because I can't control the outdoor air for him. So what is the solution to this? Well, Air Doctor is an air purifier that captured the attention of some established media outlets like CNN Money, ABC, and more. Air Doctor filters out dangerous contaminants and allergens so your lungs don't have to. My lungs thank you for that. Air Doctor is an ultra HEPA filter that's been independently tested and removes 99.9% of tested bacteria and viruses. Allergens can vary in size, but the average pollen size is about 25 microns. Air Doctor virtually removes 100% of particles as small as 0.003 microns in size. We love a 10th fact. Their classic Air Doctor 3000 purifier
is a thousandth. We're not in the 10th place.
I know.
We're in the 1000th place.
Well, thank you for correcting my math. We love decimal points. So the Air Doctor 3000 purifier is powerful enough to circulate the air in a 630 plus square foot room 4 times per hour. Oh, I love that. Air Doctor features whisper jet fans that are 30% quieter than the fans found in ordinary air purifiers. And you know how sensitive I am to sound, Spencer, so you know how much I like that.
Air Doctor comes with a no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't love it, just send it back for a refund minus shipping. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use the promo code GymCastic, and depending on the model, you'll receive up to 39% off or up to $300 off. Lock this special offer by going to AIRDOCTOR pro.com and use the promo code GymCastic.
We have another promo code for you. We are going to be doing a Q&A with Nadia and the Secret Police author, Dr. Stej Alaro. So send us your questions to gymcastic@gmail.com. And if you haven't gotten the book yet, you can use the code GymCastic from now until the 6th of May for 25% off. And that's for the U.S. Bloomsbury site. So that's bloomsbury.com, and it's for the U.S. site, not the UK site. This is the one for the US. So enjoy your discount and send us your questions for Stej. My book's finally arrived, so I'm really excited to finally read the full thing in English and not the summaries in Romanian. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, Spencer, let us return to NCAA Championships, Fort Worth, Texas. Okay. Where were we? Individuals?
Yeah, let's talk about individuals.
Okay, individuals. So
all the individual champions came from the second semifinal. Again. So this is, there have only been 2 in the last 3 years. Jaden Rucker on vault when she won on vault, and Maya Bordas when she was a co-champion on bars for Cal, who won titles from the first session. But now in the last 3 years, it's 89% of the individual champions have come from the second semifinal. So just something to keep an eye on.
I would like to mention that Maile O'Keefe not only is an amazing gymnast from Utah, was an elite. Remember the time that Maile O'Keefe was doing a double Arabian and Riley McCusker walked underneath her? Or was that vice versa? Do you remember that? Just like boop, 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 walked underneath her at like championships one year. So Maile O'Keefe won all around. Who said that we should watch Maile O'Keefe for the all around? Who was that, Spencer?
Okay. I mean, you said the name Maile O'Keefe.
Right.
And then I said, probably not, because she only vaulted Yurchenko full. You know who else said that? Maile O'Keefe in the media.
Well,
she was like, I didn't think I could win because I'm only vaulting Yurchenko full. Because Maile and I get it.
But guess who was right? I can't help it if you two don't know what you're talking about. A lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't be able to win with a... But like everything else she does is freaking... It's not just amazing, it's superlative. This is also how I feel about you just to describe Oklahoma. It's extra. It's the best you can do. It's not just a dismount. She's going above the bar and flipping and then dropping down. Her beam is basically a 10 every single time she does it. She's exceptional in doing the most. Except on vault, everybody, it's a stupid all-around. Everybody's going to have a weakness. Everyone calm down. My God, do you want her legs to stay on or not?
Are you creating like a KJ shirt situation here? Like one person said maybe, oh, she has a full, and now Jessica's like, all the people say she shouldn't win.
I asked multiple people at championships, and then I got a bunch of texts from people as well saying the same thing. And I was like, well, you can't have it all.
If, other people wanted to win, maybe they should have had as good of a day as Maile O'Keefe did. The scores were there. The scores were there to get if they had hit. Yep. But no one hit better than Maile did.
Yep. I thought...
a lot of favorites had major errors. And still got really high scores. But like Haley Bryant had really struggled on her vault, surprisingly. Like a lot of the times we saw it, including in semifinal competition. Jordan Chiles really struggled on that beam dismount. These errors didn't necessarily show up in the scores the way I would have... expected or liked them to, because they still got very high scores, but both of them had major errors that should not have won the all-around title, and they didn't. Maile O'Keefe won. Also, Leanne Wong was another one who was right in there, but beam, huge wobble on beam. So, Maile hit what she could do, and she was the one of the people who was a major favorite who did that.
Yep, and Chiles did her
even though she wasn't like one of the major favorites.
Yeah.
She was second-tier favorite.
And like you said, Chiles double pike on beam, but landed super short, had to take a big step forward, chest super low, looked like she was going to hit her head on the beam. So it's like, sometimes you do the most, but then it costs you. In other places, it didn't.
And the judges were like, 985! I don't know what the deductions are.
Going back to Oklahoma and how great they are, Olivia Trautman won vault. I thought at first that it was going to be a tie with Blackman from Boise State because she's... Black Sun. God, I try to tell you that every time, Spencer, and every time you're saying it wrong. Black Sun from Boise State, who stuck and got a 10 at regionals and stuck again in the semifinal for her event at NCAA.
Semifinals.
It's so fun. And I was like, oh, that's it. She's going to tie with whoever goes. And then Trautman went, and I was like, oh, it was so high. It's so straight. It's so stuck. Oh, crap. But it was amazing. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I think
Olivia Trautman was the strongest vaulter in the semifinal day.
Yeah, Blackson should be so proud of herself. Like, that's just so hard to do, and to do it twice in a row when it counts, amazing. Which is also the staple of Oklahoma gymnastics. So we have Chiles won bars, which is another one. I was like, I don't know. Who was in first before her? I'm trying to remember.
There were a lot of people on 995.
Yeah.
Like we were going to have like a massive tie. And then Jordan was like, actually, ties are dumb. Why don't I just win outright? And we were like, okay.
Finally, she didn't get her favorite score of a 9975. Also Spencer's favorite score. And I don't have a problem with it. Like, legs straight, toes pointed, legs glued together. Her in-bar ganger was above the bar, stuck dismount. And she's doing more. She doesn't have to do that routine. Yeah,
but you don't score that.
I know you don't, but if Miley and you said that she probably wouldn't win because she only had a 10.0995 vault, then, I can use that argument for this. And she hit this at the same time that Miley got a 10 on beam, too, in the semifinal. So,
yeah.
So Maile O'Keefe won beam, by the way, with the 10.
Yeah.
The 10s were not flying out willy-nilly.
Then they were. When we hit the end of the second semifinal, they were flying up fairly willy-nilly.
I did enjoy having more judges so we could use more numbers. Because they have all those numbers, all 10, and they barely use them all.
They still don't use them. They all copy each other.
But I did like, seeing more variety after the decimal point. That's what I'm saying.
You like more numbers? I hate these ugly decimals that we get with 6 judges.
But you hate rounding up, too.
Yeah.
All right, there's a gray area.
Those are not contradictory to each other. Both of those things are consistent.
So I thought that Leanne Wong, who probably did the most beautiful floor routine I've ever seen her do in elite or college ever, including bouncing right out of her Dos Santos into her stag jump, because in semifinal, she jumped right out of the floor and landed with both feet out of bounds. It was just beautiful. In the final.
Inverted the 2 days.
Oh, did I?
She went out of bounds on the final.
Oh, that's right.
Semifinals when the titles are awarded.
Because that's
the semifinals. But then she did kind of pause before her connection. But so did Aaliyah Finnegan, and they both got 10s from some judges. And I'm like, there was an adjustment before your connection. So
they are.
It's a broken connection.
They are both beautiful double Arabians, but the piked one, come on. Obviously, you have to give it to the piked double Arabian. But then Chiles hit, and she warmed up her full twisting double layout too, but didn't compete it.
Thank God they didn't have her compete it. She's already doing way more difficulty.
Because it was like, do you want to win or do you want to do a full twisting double layout? Up to you. And I think she was finally
UCLA was like, I guess we don't want to win because Jordan's going to do a double pike beam dismount. So have fun, Utah and Oklahoma. You win the titles. We don't want them.
But I'm very happy for Jordan Chiles because this might be the last time we see her in college. We don't know. I think it depends on how the Olympics go. If she makes the team, if she becomes an Olympic champion, is she going to come back to college? We'll see. You can make even more money if you come back to college.
Yeah, I think she's among those who seems like she's really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Based on, her like dancing and cheering for everyone. So, we'll see. We'll see how the Olympic process goes. I think that'll probably define it. But she's not one like how Suni was like, yeah, I'm done. I did it, but like school, not really. I think,
not for me.
She's like, this is not, which is fine. It's not for everyone. Doesn't have to be. But she's more like, yeah, this is not for me. I think the whole vibe of college gymnastics is very much for Jordan. So I can see her just being like, I still want that. It's really fun. I want to do it.
Yep.
And, these days, they don't even have to be on campus anymore. They could just do school from wherever and show up and do gymnastics.
Right. She can sip Mai Tais on an island to go to World Champion Center sometimes.
Good for her. And good for her.
Exactly. It also looks like it's easy for her. Like, there's some people that are like, I am killing myself for this team, and it's worth it to me, but this is the hardest thing I've ever done. Whereas Jordan Chiles looks like, yeah, these are routines I've been doing since I was 10 years old. It's not hard for me. So, and this whole school thing, also not a problem. So, yeah. Speaking of which, talk about the delay that no one was informed of that happened and what UCLA did during it. Remember in podium training?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know what happened here, but podium training, the second semifinals podium training was supposed to start. It was at the scheduled time. I'm sitting there waiting. UCLA's out there waiting to go on beam. Kentucky's out there waiting to go on vault. Oklahoma and Utah are nowhere to be found. And so I'm sitting there like, what's this about? Where are they? Like, don't they need to do I mean, I know it's just like an open stretch for 900 hours during the training session, but still, like, wouldn't they want to be out here? And then the PA announcer announces, like, the open stretch will begin in 2 minutes. And then who should emerge from different places walking very much with purpose, very forcefully, but Tom Farden and KJ Kindler over to the judges table. Tom gets there first. He's talking to like the head table, and KJ comes over and he motions something to her, and she does the oh, my heart. Okay, whew, my heart was beating out of my chest motion. And then we get an announcement. The open stretch will begin in 30 minutes. So clearly there was something like, oh, there was a delay, and we're going to not do it for 30, we're going to push everything back 30 minutes. And some teams knew about that, and some teams maybe didn't know about that because they were already ready to go. But then, of course, UCLA is like, oh, we found 30 extra minutes to do a dance party. Jordan Chiles had never been happier. She's like, oh, thank God. I needed my 30 minutes of being the section leader of the dance party to the soundtrack in the arena. This is all I've ever needed. I'm going to win 2 individual finals now because I got my dance time in. So, they seem to handle it much better than I did, surprisingly.
This is what I mean about the people that are like, oh my God, thank God I can just sleep for 30 minutes before this starts because I always feel like I'm going to die every meet. And this is like, I can barely make it through this college gymnastics thing. And Jordan, it's like 30 minutes of cardio before podium training. Yeah, I'll take it. Let's go. She
has a suspicious amount of energy. I shouldn't have said suspicious because I don't mean like there's anything going on. It's just like, I don't understand it.
But speaking of suspicious, sabotage. If there's 4 new drinks in the forum for you guys from our bartender Linzers. So if you haven't tried those yet, check them out and you can drink every time I say sabotage for the rest of the episode. Okay. Malabuyo's music. Emma Balbuyo of UCLA starts her amazing routine, is running for her first pass, no music. And of course, she's a professional who can dance and count. So she does not miss a beat, does her whole routine. She's totally fine. And then suddenly her music slowly comes back on to full volume. And she slows down a little bit and then is right back on beat. Like she just got herself right. She was barely off the music, like a tiny bit. You wouldn't even notice. Finishes her routine to the music, which is perfectly fine. To this day, no one knows what happened with her music. I personally think it was sabotage.
This day, like it was 20 years ago. To this very day. 4 days later. We still have no idea.
The mystery that still hasn't been solved. Mm-hmm. To me, it sounded like they just booped her volume down and booped it right back up. But do I know for sure? No, I asked. I tried to find out. I did my own internal investigation, and the results were nobody knows. So I've concluded sabotage, but no one can sabotage a dancer because skills. So beautiful skills award. I would like to acknowledge more individuals because team, you guys. So, Luksic from Kentucky, Hiranoti. We've talked about Hiranoti before on Beam. It's even more beautiful in person. Onotis, you guys. I can't get enough of them. Also, Kentucky should get an acknowledgement award for their vault strategy. Their handspring front pikes, like it's 1980, but way higher off that table. It's such a good strategy because they're almost deductionless in the air because you don't have the Yurchenko, my back hurts because I'm 25 and I have to straddle my legs or everything's going to break to get this freaking pop off my Yurchenko pre-flight deductions. They're so well done. Chloe from Stanford.
Yes.
I'm obsessed with her. I thought she was going to win all around.
That was Jessica's obsession with her was very clear from sitting next to Jessica during the meet.
I've only seen her
like the most urgent routine would be happening. It just would be like, Chloe's standing there. What do you think? Who do you think Chloe's friends are? And like, am I one of them?
I have only seen her on TV. So seeing her in person, she's even more impressive. And she has the, I can't believe Oklahoma didn't. I mean, Oklahoma probably did try to recruit her, and she was like, I got into Stanford. But her form is so good. Her amplitude is so good. She fell on her front through the double pike on floor. She overcooked it because that's what you do at the end of the season. My God. She's so amazing. I thought she was going to win all around. I love her. Also, Victoria
I at least thought she was going to win beam for a while. And then Miley was like, you guys, you forgot about me. Yeah, but like, she was in there for a while. It was a great beam.
Also, I think is Miley a senior? She's only a junior, right? I think so. She needs to change her mount because I always think that she touches her foot after she bloops onto the beam and then she sits down on one hip. And I swear every time it looks like her foot touches the board. I watched it again and
it really did from our angle.
Yeah, and then I watched it on TV and it looked like that too. And I was like, oh, she's a senior. Oh, well, no one else. If anyone else does her mount, pull the board immediately just pull it back because it looks like you touch your foot. She'll take a seventh that you think, or something.
Yeah, I was like, it's cute that you think being a senior means you're done.
Oh, COVID. How you bless us with more and more gymnasts every year. Also, Victoria Wynn after that horrible crash at Oklahoma where she hit her head twice, once on the table and once when she landed, became a freaking All-American on vault and then did a beautiful vault, which I thought from our angle she stuck when she landed, but she hopped to the side when I watched the replay from the TV angle. So, but it's still such a beautiful vault. I'm just so happy for her after suffering her Georgia years and then finding the right school fit for her. I'm really happy for her because her gymnastics is so beautiful. I want to talk about everything.
You know who else is happy for her? Morgan Hurd.
Oh,
there is no one is happier for another gymnast's success on any team at any moment than Morgan Hurd is for Victoria Wynn, just for being great. She doesn't even have to do any skills, just for being alive. Morgan's like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Did you see Victoria? Victoria posted today that her hand is literally bruised from Morgan holding her hand this whole weekend. Oh my God, Spencer, are you glad I don't do that to you? Oh my God, you'd kill me. I didn't touch you so much this weekend.
I would not let you do that. Yeah, I put a chair in between.
Yes,
there's there's a reason that there's a chair where I'm sitting in, and then a backpack chair, and then Jessica.
So I can't reach over and grab his thigh oh, did you see that? Also, apparently, if you ply Spencer with enough alcohol, he will partner dance with you. So now I know what to do before the meet starts. Oh, the story's out.
Peer pressured. I got peer pressured into it and manipulated.
You got coached. You got coached and you couldn't say no to those
that's what coaching is. It's manipulation.
Oh my God. Okay, so everything you didn't see on TV. We talked about Morgan Hurd having the warm-up of her life. I think if she can get consistent, if she can do that in practice every day, we'll see her compete next year. The OU assistant coach went into labor in Texas and had a championships baby confirmed in the press conference. Or is she the operations manager?
Yeah, I was going to say the assistant coaches are Tom and Lou.
Lou had a baby out of sheer joy. He had a joy child. Sorry, operations, I think, manager is who she is. Also, Florida had lots of gymnasts kneeling during the national anthem. They didn't care that it was NCAA, so that is commitment, so shout out to them. Kennedy Baker, who made it from first-year commentator to ESPN analyst as she should. She is the Ashley Kerr is the person who gave birth. Also, so Kennedy Baker was sabotaged and somehow got sick and couldn't do her analysis the final day, you guys. So wish her well, because she couldn't be there in the building. More sabotage. The ESPN broadcast table fell off the podium, as in where Kathy and Bart, legends of commentary, protect them at all costs. It fell forward off the podium. What is happening? At least there was no smoke from under the bar's podium this time. Also, do you see Tom Farden's measuring? My God.
I missed the table. Like, you guys, the table falling is the most me thing that's ever happened at a gymnastics meet. I can't believe I didn't wish that in our in-arena opportunities for comedy wishes. I missed it, and then it happened, and I didn't see it because I was in the wrong place.
Spencer.
It's my biggest regret. All these teams are like, I'm going to leave nationals with no regrets. And I'm like, well, I leave nationals with at least one regret. I didn't see the table fall.
Speaking of...
Also partner dancing. Also going to a piano bar. You guys, behind the scenes next time is going to be an adventure.
We have so many stories. I was already in bed. Fact checker goes out and he's like, Spencer's here. And I was like, what? Anyway, all right. That's when we come back from vacation. But anyway, so the point is, Tom Farden measuring, literally he has like a level and a measuring tape in his pants at all times. They're now to combat the Tom Fardens of the world. It is, and I appreciate that. To combat the Tom Fardens, there are levels on the bars now. So not everyone's like putting their phone to level the bars. They actually have them on the upright. So that's a great improvement. We need to have that everywhere. They also had 3 different levels on the beam during the check the equipment day, but not during the competition. So we need to add that as well somehow. Inside of it, I don't know
during
how.
the routine.
Put a camera in, well, it's hollow, or the ends. So if we're going to have those beam caps that are always falling off, then put a camera with a little light and the levels inside so someone can monitor it. Because I told you what happened at that one meet that's on the hockey ice. Where is that? Pack something regionals, Denver?
I feel like so many of these arenas are on the hockey. They have to cover
whatever
that.
One had ice. Everything was level, and then throughout the mice started to melt, the ice started to melt, and the beam slowly drifted downwards.
There's been mice in a beam before.
Oh,
that's
for
100%
sure.
happened.
Oh my God. That's where they live and make their nests, and then they go into the pit to hunt for food. Everybody knows how this works. Okay, so where was I?
In case you were feeling any gymnasts out there who are starting to feel confident on beam, there are definitely mice in that beam.
But they're your friend. They want you to do well. Okay, the NCAA, I want to give a compliment to the NCAA. So obviously...
No, you don't.
I know. Huge failure for having a women's championship, multiple women's championships in a state that doesn't have rights for women over their own reproductive rights or trans citizens. But I do want to give them a shout out because they did a great job of keeping the audience up to date on the individuals. So in the arena, we had announcer lady after each rotation.
Shonda Music.
Giving us...
that Jessica doesn't know her name. You guys,
why would I know her name?
The amount of time... Oh my God. The amount of time we spent talking about this woman who is out of control.
She told us a lot of contradictory things to do.
If you've ever watched Parks and Recreation, imagine Joan Calamezzo as the in-arena announcer, because that's what it was. Just... for anyone who's interested. That's exactly what she was. That's exactly what happened.
So they had the individual scores up with the team rotation for every single rotation, so you could see the individual score. We also, of course, had them in the official scoring, which is great. So if you had your computer open with the scores. Also, they showed replays of the individuals' routines or clips of them after each rotation. So we were up to date on that. I live for individuals. And so this is my favorite improvement. The only thing they could have done to make it better is show the running all around an event total. So you knew Chloe's from Stanford is winning beam right now.
Be accurate.
Well, that's one problem, Spencer.
Because they definitely for a while had Rosie Casali on a 995 on bars, and Denver hadn't gone to bars yet.
Yeah.
But she was winning.
But it's still a huge improvement over past years. But that was one of the times.
It was weird because those were the only things the in-arena announcer updated, the only scores. And it made it seem like they were the only ones eligible for individual titles, were the individuals competing in the arena. And most of the scores she said were wrong and had some not great information and struggled through most of them. But yeah, it was odd. And I think if you weren't extremely familiar with the format, it was very misleading. The way they were giving the individual scores.
That's an important perspective because all I was like, oh, thank God you're highlighting these people who are getting stuffed into these teams. Because I, of course, always have the scoring up. So I'm just seeing like who's ranked first, like who just went and looking at the rankings. So anyway, also they had a Spanish language feed. So if you want to watch in Spanish, I also want to know who does the analysis in the Spanish feed. If anybody listens to that, let us know.
They have that for many of the big meets on ESPN. They'll have, if you, in the ESPN 3, you can watch the Spanish language feed.
The LSU pilot drove the plane into the mud and then tried to rev it to get out and got the plane even more stuck. And Jay Clark asked the pilot if they need to be drug tested, which is also the first thing I said. So, they missed the banquet and awards completely because of driver error, which is terrifying. Also, OU got stuck because their bus ran over something. So I think it's a good omen if you get stuck. If you're head coach of a team that's won before, bad omen. White leotard, bad omen. But having trouble getting there, good omen.
Yeah. That is like a very common thing in terms of performance. Like if something bad happens right before you're going to have a good performance, like that's a very common superstition.
Yeah.
But the reality of it would be like, not just the superstition, would be like it takes your mind off of it. You're worried about something else. You're not worried about your performance. That's how it might be actually helpful.
Like break a leg, but it doesn't actually mean break a leg, right? It means break something else in the theater. It doesn't actually mean chop your leg in half.
Break your co-star.
Right?
Break that bitch who has the lead. That's what it means.
Also, Tasha Schweigert, Maggie Nichols, Amy Borman, and Vanessa Atler were all at our live show hanging out and chatting with people and supporting us. There's a bunch of gymnasts and coaches that were competing too that came to the live show. So I hope you guys are all having FOMO and you should definitely come next time. It was such a good time. Taylor Rice also said that she's going to republish her infamous blog.
I feel like you're over-promising that she said she was going to. She said she would be open to it.
She said also that she wants prompts so she can write more because she wants to write again. And she's like, yeah, if you guys ask me, what do you want me to write about? I'll write again. So, also GymCats, her family gym, posted the photobomb picture with Condoleezza Rice, which it's the most innocuous picture, but anyway, guys, we got great stories. My favorite was from Evie when I asked, are there any skills that you guys did that you were told not to do? Because, famously Taylor Rice would just change her routine and be like, I'm going to man wipe. I'm going to salute. I'm going to whatever she wanted. And Evie looked at horrified and was like, no, I didn't want to do any of the skills. They're all terrifying. Oh, that was my favorite. Okay. Are you ready for some rules changes for 2024?
I'm more than ready for some rules changes in college gymnastics, Jessica. When are they starting?
Right. Number one, obviously fix the judging. So everyone's happy and there's a real set of rules that are written down, not the imaginary
I love that
rules.
you think there's a way everyone would be happy. That's not a thing. Nor should it be, because what would this show be?
All right. So give me your thoughts.
All right.
Coaches cannot stand on the podium unless actively spotting. You can't just stand there and do an acting class about, oh, look, everybody hit, even when they're rolling out of bounds, doing your acting class on the podium. Get off the podium. Do we agree?
Yes, we agree.
Yes. Okay.
Also, sounds are coaching.
Yes.
clapping is coaching. Like a single clap when you're coaching bars is illegal coaching.
Yeah.
And should not be permitted.
Right. Everybody knows that is tap or open or grab.
Yeah.
Like, you can coach with a sound that is not a word. So either you're going to enforce it or not. And I say, like, I don't care, because if I'm just like, make it all legal or don't. I enjoy hearing people.
Well, yeah, make it all legal or don't, but you're not, right now you're not
or
allowed
enforce
to,
the rule. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
There's more to coaching than just saying words.
While I absolutely loved Cal's Grushkova homage leotard with the flowers across from the great Soviet gymnast, if you want to win, you can't wear a white Leo. I mean, the other thing is, like, we have England and New Zealand's national soccer teams don't wear white shorts anymore because periods. So let's also make this. If you want to wear white from like crotch up, that's fine. But if you want to win and care about periods, let's no white leotards. This is just, right? Facts. Okay. Right, Spencer?
Sure.
Okay. Photographers. Here's the thing. The photographers get shitty angles because TV gets the best spots. And if you want photographers to have an angle other than shooting up people's crotches, you need the photographers to have a platform like TV has. Right now, TV gets the good shots and the photographers are stuck doing upskirt shots. So if you want them to have a good platform, give them a literal platform that's not blocking the audience, but is off to the side so they can get an even shot looking down or even with the gymnasts. I just think in any bathing suit sport, this should be the rule for photographers. It's only fair to the athletes. Do we agree?
I mean, partially. Shouldn't TV get the best spots? I would want TV to get the best spots in the arena.
There's enough room for everyone. Okay. That's the thing. Even if you need to put the photographers on a platform where the head table is or in the stands, we've seen that before. There's a photographer spot in the stands and you move some seats around that so people can see. Even though it was so empty. The arena was so empty. Maybe don't have it in Texas where there's no...
It's going to be in this arena for, in perpetuity. And the attendance has been fine, but...
It's shitty.
It's so much... It's like for several of the teams, if not most of the teams going to nationals, this is the worst crowd they've competed. Like for the SEC teams, this is the worst crowd they've competed in front of all year, which should not happen at nationals.
Yeah. Even for UCLA, the Pac-12, this is the worst. And Utah, for sure, this is the worst crowd.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I'm saying, like, sometimes you'll go to away meets, and it's like...
Yeah.
They'll have had away meets that are like this. But yeah, this is way worse than a home meet for most of the teams competing.
Yeah. Not to mention, I have to say, you guys... The seats need to be further apart. Like, this is my other rule. The people below you need to be at knee level so everyone can stand up and cheer, because you cannot see. Everyone is constantly standing up and blocking the gymnastics. And it's not like freaking basketball or some nonsense where they just do the same thing over and over. Like, it's the one person one time doing a routine, and literally if it's vault, like, that's it. Oh, well, you missed the whole thing. So these arenas where there's sports, the seats need to be at a higher level than the next one so people can stand up and cheer without blocking other people. Because there's going to be fist fights at one of these meets. It's like that bad because people don't care if they're blocking other people because their cheering is more important than other people's view. And it's going to get heated. So yeah.
It's going to get bad. It almost did get bad because how I feel about mascots anyway.
That Gator was next to you for so long.
Was right there and then taking pictures with people in front of bars, you guys. I couldn't see the handstands on bars for like half a rotation because there was a person in a fuzzy alligator suit.
It's so rude.
It's the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
It's so it's just rude. Like, this is why it's so hard to come back to the United States after being in Japan, because everyone is so rude and they don't care about other people here. Anyway, all right. So the other rule, the judges need phones, like old school phone with a cable that runs under the podium. Actual phones. If they had phones for the judges in the 60s at the Mexico City Olympics, why can't we have them at NCAAs for these freaking judges so they don't have to get up and walk to the middle and get off the podium and have their meetings? Like bar or beam took forever. If you're going to have a conference, just go walk to the beam at least. Just put your stuff on the beam and have a meeting, or just give them phones. I mean, give something to the phone company. They're all dying. Like, come on. Like, help the phone company out.
I only saw one judges conference on Beam.
There were so many. There were so many
Really?
judges conference. Yes. Because every time I was like, oh my God, making a note. And my note's like conference. There was a ton, which may have been like 4, but it's way too many. And it was killing me because it was taking
6
so long.
judges conferences sound stressful. I'm like, you couldn't possibly. You think all those people are going to agree? 6 judges can't agree on anything.
Yeah. And the other thing I thought about is like, what if you have a judge that's in a chair? They can't wheel themselves down the steps to have a conference on the floor. Like, get phones, and then you have ADA compliant judging platforms. And you don't have to worry about someone. You'd have to do it anyway because you're going to need a ramp. But don't make them wheel themselves. Just get a freaking phone. I can't stop.
Or we could add some technology to the sport.
Right. We could just key in your
put mice with levels in their mouths in the beam, and have an avocado landline. It's like, I feel like we could probably progress from that and do it even better.
Oh my God, if they add these phones, I want them to be like the 1800s one, where you pick up the thing and listen and talk into it.
With the one up to your ear and the one.
Yes. Or
and
otherwise.
You have to wind it. Just crank it. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so those are my major things that we need to get changed. But I do want to get to the European Championships, because those also happened, and we can get into super, super detail. But Spencer, Gatorova.
Do you want to just do those when we come back?
Well, actually, maybe. All right, give me 3 things that people should know about before we come back.
Sorry, men, you're not making the top 3 then. See ya. Okay, what you need to know about. Becky Downey won silver on bars. That's very important to know about.
And Deanna Hong has her trailer out for her documentary on Becky Downey. So we have put it in our story, and also go to Deanna Hong's Instagram to see the trailer and be moved.
So Becky's back, silver medal. This and the gold for the team, which is now a real competition, even though this wasn't technically a team. Euros. Those are her first European Championships medals in 7 years. So the last time Becky medaled on bars at Euros, Simone had 0 Olympic medals in her career. And she's back, and she is, second and could have won. Although I think Alice D'Amato was the rightful bars winner. Other that you need to know, Sana won beam. She's back and she won beam. And the turns, Jessica. In qualification, I was like, because she invented a new turn in qualification. She did leg up 1, then the leg dropped, and it was tucked for the second turn. And I was like, that's basically a new element, and she should submit it. But it wasn't ideal. The turn combination in the final, it was just I was transported to Rio. It was magnificent.
Very happy for her.
Very important. And okay, third one. I'm going to say Zofia Kovac, even though you should talk about Jessica Gatorova winning the all-around. But the fact that Zofia Kovac got a silver medal would have been gold if she hadn't hit her foot on the Shap half on bars, is a big deal for her, because she's had one previous successful European Championship, but that was that one at the end of 2020 when it got canceled, and then they were like, actually, we're just going to do a December European Championship, and like 2 gymnasts came, and she did well, but it wasn't fully attended, although this one also was not fully attended because Russia's not there, and it kind of would change things. But I thought it was really impressive European Championships for her in the all-around, and I was very happy to see her hit 4 strong events at the same time and win an all-around medal, and was really close to Gatorova.
Yeah. Sofia Kovac is another one who's been doing gymnastics for a long time, and her level just stays right there. She's amazing. So we'll get into more detail from European Championships. Wait, yes. One more. Yeah.
Because I have a lot. No, we'll get into more details later because I have a lot to say about Tkachev with the half turns.
Yes, because there wasn't credit.
I have several issues that we're going to need to talk through.
Yeah, so when we come back from our very well-deserved vacation, because this is 15 weeks, 2 podcasts a week with no breaks, and why have your own business and work for 18 years in a corporate job to build it, and then 10 years in a podcast to build it up if you can't give yourself at least a European amount of vacation. So we'll have an incredible best of GymCastic next week for you, but we will be resting, and by resting, I mean I will be playing video games and swimming. That's my whole plan.
For members, we will return to you on April 28th with a behind the scenes, and then we'll be back the next week with our regular show, where we'll catch up on, presumably there'll be some news, maybe about some NCAA coaches or transfers or something, because that's probably what happens this time of year. We'll talk about European Championships in more detail, catch up on the other things that have gone on.
And remember, you have 2 years of behind the scenes. You can pick from any of them. You can start at the beginning where we tell all the stuff we couldn't talk about that happened at meets over the years, and all the GymCastic episodes to listen to, but we'll have a best of up for you. Also, quickly, Riley McCusker's case in New Jersey against Maggie Haney and her gym has been dismissed with prejudice, which means you can never refile the case, ever.
Maggie Haney's countersuit against Riley.
No, the whole case.
The whole thing.
The whole thing has been dismissed with prejudice. So, yeah, it's done. Because it was part of the same case. It wasn't a countersuit. We're just explaining it that way to make it easier. It was just that Maggie was like, oh, but if you're going to sue us, then also Riley's parents are also culpable because they knew what was going on. And the whole thing has been dismissed with prejudice. So the judge was essentially like, no to this entire lawsuit. So both sides, the countersuit effectively and Riley's case, done. Case closed. Chelsea has a book out called Chelsea's Challenges, Chelsea Memel, and Alicia Sacramone had a baby. She had a baby a month ago. And so baby things. All right. We will see you guys. Thank you so much to Club Gym Nerd members for supporting us. Remember, we do an extra podcast for you every single week for the whole entire year, not just during the college season. So we'll see you back for that. Remember, you can still get live show tickets and watch the virtual replay if you want to and enjoy the show, because it was very, very fun. And we'll see you in a week on Behind the Scenes, and then back for the regular show. Enjoy all 2 years of Behind the Scenes College of Cocktails episodes, or any of our 10 years of GymCastic episodes, and a replay next week while we are on vacation. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you, and congratulations to Oklahoma and all the amazing college gymnasts that we got to enjoy this year. So until 2 weeks from now, remember to take off and gay, split on rights, happy handstands, and we'll see you in a week and a half.
This show is created, executive produced, edited, audio engineered, and published by me, Jessica O'Byrne.
Managing editor in charge of show notes, podcast content, and wrangling over enthusiasm is Spencer Barnes.
Our news editor is Uncle Tim of gymnastics-history.com.
And customer service, IT, Gymternet news, and additional production services are provided by Steve Cooper, aka Fact Check.